And when you're ready, just let your eyes close. Just taking this time for ourselves. Knowing that we don't need to go anywhere. We don't need to reach or achieve anything. Simply sitting with what is. Feeling the body. Noticing if there is any little tension that still can be released. And then also noticing the weight of the body. Easy to feel where it touches the surface, maybe the cushion or the floor. Feeling the pull of the earth on those areas. And letting go into that. Relaxing into that attraction. By relaxing, we mean we allow that attraction to happen. We let ourselves fall, all parts of the body, and fall towards the earth. We allow them to be attracted towards Mother Earth. And allowing also the upper part of the body, the shoulders, all the muscles of the neck and of the back to relax downwards. Grounding ourselves in this way. And becoming also aware of the sky energy pulling on the top of the head upward, aligning the neck and the spine. in this balanced state between the energy of the earth and the sky. We simply let go. Not only of the physicality, but also all thoughts, memories, imaginations. We just let them all go. For a few moments, simply being present in this moment. Sensing the inner space. Sensing it as a vacuum or a spaciousness or an emptiness. Or a stillness. And within that stillness, the only movement happening is the cycle of the breath happening by itself. Bringing back our attention every time it's moving away. Bring it back to this inner space. And that quality of emptiness that is there when all mind activities have subsided. It doesn't matter for how long they subsided. Just bring back your attention and let it rest in that space between thoughts. Explore with your awareness that spaciousness. Rest in that gap, in that pause. And very gently bringing back the attention to the group. So, what I'd like to share today is it's about the mind, the egoic mind. No matter from what corner we look at, we always find that as the core hindrance. But the first thing I want to say is for you to be really aware that the mind is not a thing. It's not like an entity, really. It's not a thing. It's a process. It's a movement. It's a becoming. It's always changing. It's always moving. There's not a thing like, okay, this is the mind, that you can grasp it inside of you. There's only a process of thinking. You see? What does it mean? Why is that important to understand that? Because in the moment, the thinking process stops. In the moment, a thought that was there fades out, and there's no thinking. In that moment, there is no mind. You can look right now. If you're not thinking, you look for the mind. Where is it? And there is no mind. Where is it? It's not that you stop thinking and then the mind sits there in a little box and you can go there and grab it. And it's not there because it's a process. In the moment that process stops, there is no mind. That's why in Zen, they created this word, no dash mind, no mind, to describe that state of being. In other words, for it, it's also no mind. When there is no mind, there is being. It's not that the mind, you have to work, meditate many years, so then your mind slowly disappears. Maybe if you meditate your whole life, your mind will eventually disappear, vanishes. It's not like that. In the moment you stop thinking, the mind is already vanished. It's not there. You see? It means in this moment, if you're not thinking, there is no mind. It's very important to understand that mind is a process, it's not a thing. Because if you think that it's a thing, then you start working on it, how to get rid of this thing. But there is not a thing that you can get rid of. Simply, it's a movement. It's like ripples on the surface of the lake. the movement of the thinking process creates these ripples that they keep disturbing the surface of consciousness that is like a mirror-like lake. Sometimes it's not ripples, sometimes it's big waves. Sometimes it's tsunamis. Yeah, the mind can be really invasive and strong. But nevertheless, when these waves come down, then the ocean is left. The ocean was there before too. The waves are part of the ocean. The mind is part of consciousness. It's a phenomenon that is happening within consciousness. It's a movement that is happening within consciousness. But it's not a thing. It appears to be a thing because the waves appear to be, oh, it's a wave. Well, it's just the ocean that is taking that shape in that moment. It's not a separate thing that, oh, this is a wave. A wave is a movement. It's a process, right? It rises, gets bigger, then it goes down and it disappears, just like the mind. The ocean is there at all times, though. It happens to look like a wave in that particular area in that moment, but it's still the same ocean. That wave will disappear, and then you can look, where are the waves? There's no waves. It's just a calm ocean. It's like that with the mind. Mind exists as an expression of consciousness. It exists within consciousness. But as soon as that movement stops, there's this consciousness. There is no mind. So don't get all wrapped up trying to defeat the mind or working really hard so that one day there will be no mind. At any moment you stop thinking, there is no mind. Don't go far. And so then, why is it important? Because then you can rest in that space of no mind. If you realize it's not an entity, there is no substance to the mind, it's just a process. Then you relax and you realize, oh, okay, let me rest in no mind because in this moment, that's what it is. So this process is also connected to something that feels very real, sometimes even more real than thoughts, which is emotions. And we talked about emotions, we talked about how important it is to become aware of them, to recognize them and acknowledge them. Yeah, all true and all very good. But we didn't address one thing, how much emotions are also created by the thoughts. Most of our emotions, especially the surface one, are just the result of a thought that was there just before. If you look attentively, usually there is a thought before. That provokes an emotion. And I brought something that I read the other day that is very nicely explained, and I'll read it to you because it's worth it. It's taken from a book of Eckhart Tolle, which is A New Earth. So if you have it, it's a chapter that is called Emotions and the Ego. So let's read it through together. I'll read it for you. It says, the ego is not only the unobserved mind, the voice in the head, which pretends to be you. But it's also the unobserved emotions that are the body's reaction to what the voice in the head is saying. Because the emotions are felt in the body, right? That's why they feel so real. But still, what we're looking at now is how that body sensations is provoked. It's a reaction to a previous thought. He is saying in the voice in the head. The voice in the head tells a story that the body believes and reacts to it, of course, because the body believes whatever the mind says. The body cannot distinguish between what is, or is this a real thought or not? A thought is a thought. The body reacts to that. And those reactions are called emotions. The emotions in turn feed energy back to the thoughts that created the emotion in the first place. So this is the vicious circle between unexamined thoughts and emotions, giving rise to emotional thinking and emotional story making. So rightly so, he talks about unexamined thoughts. What does it mean? It simply means you're not aware that you're thinking. Yeah, simply that. And so your thoughts is going and suddenly you're feeling an emotion. You didn't even realize that you were thinking that particular thoughts, but you notice the emotions because it's a physical sensation. And so suddenly it's almost like you're lost in your thinking, and then particular thoughts create an emotion, and then suddenly you feel the emotions because it's a body sensations, and you lost track that you were even thinking something that created that emotions, right? All you know is that you're feeling whatever, fear in that moment, or anger, or whatever it is. And then he's saying, once you enter in that emotions, then the emotions feed back the mind, like, oh, I feel fear, for example. And it's like, and then the mind looks for something because it is not aware of the thoughts that came before. And it looks for something that you should be afraid of. It looks for a reason. And so it creates a thought about fear. So it's a loop. And that's what he's saying. Thoughts that trigger emotional responses in the body may sometimes come so fast that before the mind has had the time to voice them, the body has already responded with an emotion, and the emotion has turned into a reaction. It's simply saying what we were saying, that thoughts can be so fast, or you can be so distracted that you don't even see them arising, and you're already feeling an emotions connected to those thoughts. Those thoughts exist at a pre-verbal stage and could be called unspoken or unconscious assumptions. They have their origin in a person's past conditioning, usually from early childhood. So now he's moving into some of these thoughts are rooted into some experiences that we don't even remember them. And of course, they're rooted in the ego, which is a memory system. So all memories that we have absorbed and stored, they can be also very, very old. They might be something we can't even remember consciously, but they created a memory inside. For example, one of this memory that you have absorbed at a certain point, for whatever reason, is people cannot be trusted, let's say. This would be an example of such an unconscious assumption in a person whose primordial relationship, that is to say, with parents or siblings, were not supportive and did not inspire trust. So let's suppose you in your family, you had experiences that either from your parents or your brothers or sisters or extended family, whatever it was, you had a childhood or early years even where there was nothing you could really trust. You didn't feel safe. So the result of that might be a thought that says people cannot be trusted. And here are a few more common unconscious assumptions. So by unconscious assumptions, he means this little recorded concept that we stored as a consequence of our experience. Yeah, for example, we couldn't trust the environment, so we created the assumption people cannot be trusted, and then it stays there, right, inside of us. And here are a few more unconscious assumptions. Nobody respects and appreciates me. Yeah, that's another one. I need to fight to survive. That could be another one. There is never enough money. Yeah, that's another one. Life always lets you down. I don't deserve abundance. Or I don't deserve love. Unconscious assumptions create emotions in the body, which in turn generate mind activity and or instant reactions. In this way, they create your personal reality. The voice of the ego continuously disrupts the body's natural state of well-being. So there is a state of well-being that the body naturally has, but is constantly disturbed by thoughts. Almost every human body is under a great deal of strain and stress, not because it is threatened by some external factor, but from within the mind. The body has an ego attached to it, and it cannot but respond to all the dysfunctional thought patterns that make up the ego. Yeah, as we were saying, the body cannot distinguish between a thought and what is real, between a thought and what is really happening, between the thought, oh, people cannot be trusted, and the fact that actually you are in a situation where, okay, you have to be careful because there's something in this person that cannot be trusted. It can only be a pre-assumption concept that we stored, right? That's part of our ego. Or I don't deserve to be loved, for example. You might be in a situation that actually you are being loved, but because of this assumption, you deny it and you push it away, and you see the body perceive the assumption and know what is happening in that moment. It cannot see that actually you are loved in that moment, because the thought is so strong that I cannot be loved, that you cannot recognize that love that is happening, or you don't let it in, for example. Yeah. So the body responds, we have to be careful, because the body responds to thoughts as much as to something that is actually happening, right? Thus, a stream of negative emotion accompanies the stream of incessant and compulsive thinking. a stream of negative emotions is constantly happening because there is a compulsive thought process that keeps going around and around based on those assumptions that we talked about, for example. So what is a negative emotion? It's an emotion that is toxic to the body and interferes with its balance and harmonious functioning. Fear, for example, anxiety, anger, bearing a grudge, sadness, hatred, or intense dislike, jealousy, envy. All these disrupt the energy flow through the body, affect the heart, the immune system, digestion, production of hormones, and so on. Yeah. So he's basically talking about how the body is affected by emotions that are created by thoughts. In some of the early session, I made the example of you wake up in the middle of the night and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and suddenly you can't sleep anymore and you start thinking. And then you start remembering something that maybe happened yesterday that was scary, but it could be like watching the TV and you watch a scary movie, or it could be you were watching the news, particularly in these days, and there is just scary things, right? So because news work like that, they're made to keep people afraid. So you remember it's 3 o'clock in the night and you remember something you saw in the news, and then the body reacts to that, right? Thought, memory, it's a thought. And your heartbeat accelerates. And then you start, the adrenaline are suddenly pumped out. And then, of course, you're so awake and you're feeling fear. You're feeling fear. But if you take a step back, so you can either go deep into that and believe that it's real, or you can use your awareness to step back and say, whoa, dude, it's 3 a.m, you're in your bed. It's really cozy and quiet and nice. There's nothing to be afraid here, right? And yet, I'm feeling fear. I cannot deny it. It's in my body. But okay, then you look, you trace it back, and you trace it back to a thought. Oh yeah, it's true. I started remembering what I saw last night in TV, and that generated that emotion, right? To make it simple example. So awareness, what we practice is awareness and mindfulness of the movement that the mind creates, which is a movement. It's a process, which in turns creates emotions. Emotions that in turns, they can also feed thoughts again. Because I feel this, there must be a reason. And then you start thinking all the things you're afraid of, for example, if you're not aware. Or you might think about, you're there in your bedroom and you start thinking about all the children that are dying of starvation in Africa, and then you feel so sad and you really start feeling really depressed and sad about it. I mean, nothing wrong with feeling empathy. It's a beautiful quality. But are those children in your bedroom in that moment? No. That moment you're in. There are no just African children starving, dying in your bedroom, right? That means we're not saying, well, okay, we wouldn't deny because we don't see it. We are aware. I'm just saying that's an example where you can, just through a thought that is not happening in that moment in your present reality, that thought will create a state of being that is not connected at all with your present moment, right? Or in these days, you might be at home and feeling like, oh my God, they're restricting all my rights. I'm not free anymore, right? I'm in lockdown, or I cannot go to the restaurants if I go out, and I'm not free. Then stop for a moment. Take a few steps back and look. Is it really true? Okay. You're at home. You're not in chain. You're not in a jail. You're in your home. Nothing is happening. You're free as always. Isn't it? It's a thought that makes you feel unfree. Then you could say, yeah, but if I go out of the door, okay, then go out of the door. But stay in the moment and see what happens. Go out of the door. So you put your nose out and you go, it's a nice day. Let me step out. Oh, nice clouds. There's some blue sky. Wow, it's a nice weather. Are you unfree in that moment? No, you're still free, right? So move moment by moment, and you realize you're always free. Doesn't matter what happens. Is the thought that something that happens makes you unfree that makes you unfree. So we have to be very careful, because we create our own reality through our thoughts. Now, this is important to understand all this. Yeah, it's very important. But a shortcut is also through meditation. If we are able, like we did in the guided meditation today, to realize in the moment a thought ends, there is no mind, there is just empty, pure consciousness. There are no thoughts and there are no emotions. What is there? If you rest, if you can penetrate that space or let yourself fall into that space, all this understanding is not even necessary, because suddenly you feel free. You feel free. I can assure you. It's like, what a relief. There's just space and freedom and peace. That's a direct experience. So yes, it's important to understand how the mind functions and all that I'm explaining to you. But really, all it takes is a moment that you allow yourself to fall into that space where there's no mind, there are no emotions, there's no traffic, there's no ripples, there's no waves, there's no tsunamis. There's just the ocean. Rest there and you suddenly feel like, oh my God, it feels so good here. Yeah, that's your natural state of being. That we forgot about it because we're so identified with the emotions, with the thoughts. We think the mind is something real that we have to work on. No, it's just movement. It's just movement. And the moment it stops, there is no mind. That's why I say pause, take a pause, stop everything. And then look what is there. And you won't find anything, most likely. There's nothing. There is space. Okay, if you want to put something in there, you can say there's just consciousness. There's just an awareness of this space of consciousness. There's no fears, there's no jealousy, there's no hatred. There's no worrying. There's no anxiety. There's nothing. You look, there's nothing. You might look, if you look deep though, and you rest in that space, you might find joy. You might feel love arising. Then you go like, okay, but aren't those emotions too? Not really, not really. There are emotions that are more superficial. They are more like the ripples on the surface. If we go deep, there are feelings that are not really emotions. We can call them quality of being. Yeah. Like bliss, a certain sense of blissfulness or a sense of peace or love or a bubbling joy that is there for no reason at all. Those are quality of our being. They're not emotions. Yeah. So as Eckhart was saying, an emotion is something that disrupts the natural flow, the natural balance of the body, for example. But love and joy and bliss, they did not disrupt that natural state, healthy state of your body. On the contrary. Also, an emotions as always an opposite. Yeah. So maybe you're partying in the night and you feel like you're dancing and drinking a few glasses of wine, and suddenly you feel like, wow, I'm so happy. Yeah, life is great, you know. And you ride on that wave. And so that you're really high on that. Yeah. Or maybe you take some pills that make you feel high, whatever. You create those emotions. And that high, that happiness, when you wake up the next morning, has turned into a terrible headache. You feel like shit. Right? So that's the other side of that kind of happiness, of that kind of high, is the down the next morning, for example. Yeah. Or you say, oh, I so love this person, you know, I really love this person. I feel love for this person. Okay, let's look at it, you know. Is that really true? That love, when that person insults you, or if that person maybe has an affair with somebody else, turns into jealousy and rage, right? And you're really pissed off with this person for whatever reason. So that love has turned into something, another emotion. So it was not really love. So emotions always have two sides. But the quality of being, that they don't have an opposite. They're just stable there. They're like the substance that your being is made of. They don't turn into something else. There's nothing that can make them turn because they're beyond the mind. They're in the being. But all emotions that are connected to the mind will create an opposite as well. You just have to change the thought or the situation, and you'll find yourself on the other side. I remember it comes to my mind one time, Osho was saying, yeah, you can go to the Himalayas. And I mean, I've never been there, but I've been in the mountains. I've been in the Alps, for example, in the Dolomites. I've been in the canyons in the US, and there's just space, no? And silence and incredible peace. And you can be there for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and you yourself feel really peaceful and really quiet after a while. But what happens to that bliss and that peace when you go down back to the market? You know, suddenly it's like, oh my God, so much noise. It's driving me crazy. Yeah. So that peace turned into chaos because it's not a quality of your being. It was a quality of nature around you, which is good, which is nourishing. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't befool yourself, because realize also, well, is this really rooted in my being because I touch a quality of my being, or I'm just perceiving what's on the outside? And once you change the outside and you put chaos around me instead of peace, I am in a state of chaos inside, right? So anything that comes from our essence does not change if we are rooted in that essence. Anything that comes from outside, anything that comes from the mind, will have its opposite. So all emotions that come from the mind have an opposite. They switch. One moment is this, one moment is, oh, I love you so much, and the next moment is like, I hate you. Well, okay, that's fine. But let's not fool ourselves. Anyway, the shortcut is go in and rest in that space between two thoughts. Simple. That's the shortcut, simplest. Go in and look when your mind is not thinking, when your voice inside your head is not talking. What is there? When there is no emotions and no thoughts, what is there? Look, simply look. And then rest in that. That brings all the understanding that you need. You can get rid of all the 125 videos I have made or something like that. All the words that have been spoken by all the masters and teachers of the world, they're all in that little tiny moment, which seems tiny, but when you go in it, it's vast. It's very spacious. It's all there. It's all solved like that. This is the good news, people. Okay, I share what I wanted to share with you. If somebody wants to share something, I would love to hear it too, though. We have still a little bit of time. If you have a question, or if you have some insight from what I just said, anything, whatever. If you want to share something that happened to you. Yeah, Nicole, tell us.
Hi, good morning, everybody. You triggered me when you said when you're very anxious when things in the past happened to you when you're a child, and you didn't trust your family or your surroundings, and that it's like a blueprint for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I can't trust other people.
Yeah.
How can you change this?
Well, the first step is to see that that's a recurrent feeling, right? because you might not remember, because it could be preverbal. Preverbal means you are so little that you are not speaking yet. Yeah, that's what preverbal means. So the first year of your life can be something happening there. It could be in your, when you're inside of your mother, and that something happened that created that. So you cannot rely on memory, but you can observe, for example, wow, I keep having this mistrust. No matter what, it's always there, you know. So then you know, okay, it's a pattern, obviously. Because sometimes there might be a reason that make you feel mistrust, but not always. But you feel it as an undercurrent. Yeah. So you know, okay, this is a pattern of my personality. You know, my personality has been formed around different concept assumptions, as Eckhart said. And so you start seeing how your personality is formed, of what is formed. Yeah. So recurrent thoughts, recurrent feeling that repeats and repeats, you know, okay, this is part of my ego. It's part of my the structure of my ego. So that's the first, foremost, most important thing, is to use awareness to dissect, to see through, instead of believing it, right? Because unconscious, if you are unconscious of the fact that this is a repeating patterns, you end up believing it every time it arises. You fall into it and you believe it, right? So unconsciousness makes you go in a wheel that goes on and on. It will repeat itself forever. Awareness lets you see, oh, okay, here comes again that particular thought. It's a recurring pattern. I know it's part of my egoic structure. And so you don't believe it so much anymore. That's already a step. You already stepped halfway out of it, you know? So I think that's the main tool that we have, is to bring understanding, you know, through our awareness to what we're feeling and why we're feeling it. I don't have any other magic wand.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, yesterday I had a client, and that was his main focus, and I was wondering how I can. Now I can't turn it around, but this person has to. Yeah, can have may have a different view on life.
Yes.
So it's very funny that you just spoke about that and thought, okay,
Yeah.
I had it yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. But you can help him or her to see, you can help him to see, well, can you see that it's a recurring pattern, for example?
Yes, it's very clear for this
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
And then he or she can realize every time, once you say that, he might still be at a place where he cannot see that it's recurring, but just the fact that you point it out over and over, then every time it comes up, it goes like, oh, well, maybe she was right. Here it is again. Oh, here it is again. You know, then you help them to become aware of that. It's quite simple sometimes, no? Just we can help each other through that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, meditation, it's a shortcut. It goes way straight to the core, like we said. If you can just dive into that space of no mind, everything dissolves. But for people that do not practice, and or if your meditation is not rooted enough yet, then analysis can be helpful to a certain extent. And awareness definitely is always helpful. Then dissecting the ego piece by piece, and realizing, oh, it's just a construct of many different assumptions. Even the ego is like the mind, it's the same thing. It doesn't exist, but it's a construct that is made of many different parts. It's like a crowd. You know, a crowd is not a thing. It's, if you take, if you have like 100 people and you say there is a crowd, that's fine. So you take one person out and then another one and then another one. At the end, where is the crowd? There's no crowd left, right? You took every individual out, there's no crowd left. So the crowd was formed by many individuals, much like the mind is, or the ego is created by many assumptions and many thoughts. I don't remember why I was saying this now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, analysis can help. But the shortcut is go to the space of no mind. And if you are not able, because you're not familiar with that practice, or you're not meditating, you're not a meditator, then analysis can help in deconstruct and see all these pieces that are part of this ego. And you start realizing, oh, the ego is not something solid. It's actually a together of all these assumptions, all these preconceived ideas. And so you just get rid of them one at a time by seeing them for what they are. I hope that helps, Nicole. But bottom line, you cannot find your way to freedom through psychoanalysis. You can be psychoanalyzed your whole life and you won't have completed the whole thing. It's never ending. Because you keep recreating. Maybe you get rid of one structure, you create another one. That's why meditation is super important. I'm not saying that analysis cannot help at a certain stage, but eventually you have to move into the center, straight to the point where there is no mind. Otherwise, you keep giving solidity to the mind and to the ego as something real. But meditation allows you to realize, oh, where is the mind? Where is the ego? Let me see. You look inside and it's like, nope, I can't find it. Why? Because I'm not thinking. Aha. So it's not there. We just keep recreating it through our thinking, beliefs, concepts. That's why analysis, it has its place, and then eventually you want to step straight into that spaciousness and let go of everything. It's the only way out. The goose is out. Yeah, Abhilasha.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for saying that about the emotions, because I feel that this loop, the thoughts and the emotions, but the last few years really I have ache in my body. So my body is really like wow. And I was, yesterday, I really felt like, how is it possible that I have so much pain in the body?
Yeah.
And now this morning, when we are sitting in the meditation, it was really like, wow, oh, and it was light and the light. So I really felt like this body could relax and wow, it's not really nothing happening in the body really, because it is all this tension that you pick up. I don't know, and which I create maybe also.
Yes.
But for the last year, for example, then I really feel like this meditation is really, wow, saying to the body, wow, you can relax, you know.
Exactly. Yes.
And
Exactly.
then there is not this, yeah. I feel very nourished,
Yes.
and it is needed now because I feel really like it's very fragile. Now my body is
Yes.
really fragile.
Yes. Very
And
true.
I can feel many things through the body now. It's
Mm-hmm.
also different than before. Before I had strong body, so I didn't feel so much what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Meditation will take you more and more into that unwinding. You see, what's happening is that we somatize emotions, right?
Yeah,
So, as we were saying before, the body reacts to a thought. So, if there is a thought of fear or anxiety, the body will get tense, you know, one time, two times, three times, a million times. If that is a pattern, if that way of thinking that creates an emotion is a pattern, it that means part of that pattern is a reaction of the body. So if there is, let's say, a fear or anxiety thoughts that arises and an emotion that is created and the body responds to that, the emotion is a response to that. So there is a tension, a contraction that is created, and that's a loop. That contraction will get eventually somatized in the body, that it's always there, because it's so repetitive that it gets ingrained into your cells. So the only way that you can thinking, okay, I'm going to relax my shoulder, but actually you can't go deep enough to really relax them, right? So the only way is through meditation, because we create a pause from everything, just a stop. And then the body is able to slowly, slowly relax, deeply, deeply relax. And then the more you do it, the more you start removing that somatized reaction that is being embedded in the body. You know, you through meditation, you start releasing it more and more, but it takes time.
Yeah, and so it's very good.
So that's exactly what you were describing. It's good.
And I also felt like this music in the beginning. I really, the body really likes it. So I have to listen more to music. I don't do that.
Yeah.
It is really good for me. I feel that it can really receptive and feeling.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. Music can really be helpful.
Yeah.
And of course, what's also necessary is to remain aware when we move out of our practice of what kind of thoughts are crossing our mind. What kind of thoughts are we feeding? And especially the one that we feed constantly, like they are a pattern. We were saying with Nicole, they repeat themselves. That means it's an egoic pattern that will go on and on and on, like a hamster on the wheel, never stops. So awareness help us to break that, say, oh, here it comes again. No, okay, no. Just I'm aware of it. I don't go there. There, you created a stop. You created you broke a link in that moment. And you do it again and again and again until that link is completely broken and it doesn't repeat anymore. Otherwise, yeah, it's good to relax the body, but then if I keep recreating, allowing that pattern to recreate itself, that particular thought, that assumptions, then I recreate the same emotion and I create the same reactions in the body. So again, awareness, mindfulness in every day, in every action that we do, in every moment of our day, it's the cure, the final cure, supported by a sitting practice where you can really let go and relax your body, of course, or listening to beautiful music, whatever makes you move into that space. Yeah. Nice. Thank you, Abhilasha. Yeah. So we got our work cut out for us, huh? The beautiful thing is that we have a lot of tools. We have all the tools we need to do this work. Gurdjieff used to call it the work with a capital W. That's what we're doing. That's the only work that is really important or necessary. Is this what we're doing? The rest is just periphery, surface. But this is the work. Okay. I was feeling like, oh, it would be nice to be with you one time, you know, just be all together in person would be so nice. But in the meanwhile, it's beautiful to just be together here. I love it. I love you guys. Yeah. So unmute yourself for a second. Want to hear your voice? Are you there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Kisses and hugs.
Yeah.
I'll see you. Will I see you next Friday? I'm not sure because I'm traveling. I'll let you know on our Telegram channel. In the meanwhile, you have all the tools. Just keep practicing, yeah? Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Thank you.